Hello, everyone. It's time once again for your absolute favorite YouTube show. So please go ahead and click out of this video and head over to Mr. Beast's channel to watch that. If, however, you're all caught up on Mr. Beast, I guess you can stay here because we're going to do Page Bait, which is the show where I read the first, like, 3 pages of some of the most popular books I know nothing about and give you my unfiltered opinion. Today, we're reading a book I've selected with my highly scientific process of, like, Google searching for 5 minutes, and that book is a book that is called The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Let's go ahead and jump in to this masterpiece. So, to start off, we've got a cover with a lady's eyeball in a sword and lots of pretty flowers. Very nice. Let's go ahead and read a sample. Skip this part. Skip this part. Skip this map. Skip this dedication, skip all of this stuff. This is like some backstory type thing. I did flip through this before, so I know that this is not chapter one, so we're just going to skip this, which is probably bad if you actually want to sit down and read this book, but I'm just going to read the first chapter. 1, here we are. Several years after the war, during the mid-afternoon hour, I generally put aside to fantasize about setting fire to my manuscript and disappearing into the countryside to raise goats. I received a book in the post. If you're going to raise goats and you want to get rid of some manuscripts, just feed the manuscripts to the goats, and you don't have to worry about setting anything on fire. This was not in itself remarkable. Most members of Kentford College Department of History, it's called Kentford because you can't afford it, because you can afford college these days. I wonder if that was intentional or not. I have no idea. I know nothing about this person who wrote this book. Received so many books in the post that their offices had been overtaken by a series of architecturally unsound towers which would collapse if anyone exhaled too aggressively in their presence. Now, here's the interesting thing, that these professors had to be sent enough books to put themselves in peril like that, because the professors that I grew up around would just go out and get the books themselves. Like, you could leave them totally alone and they would still put their lives in danger in this particular way. So if people were also sending them books, they would be dead. Not from the towers collapsing, but just from suffocating in their offices or being surrounded by books. But this particular book was different. Aha! Because this particular book did not, according to every archaeologist, historian, medievalist, linguist, antiquarian, archivist, and even the most of the conspiracy theorists I had ever consulted, exist. True, I may have harbored certain fantasies that I would one day prove them all wrong. I may have pictured myself unlocking a long-lost vault or descending into a catacomb, perhaps holding a torch aloft and whispering to no one in particular, "By Jove, I found it!" Ah, so this character is British. Is the author British? I don't know, maybe so. He's going to be British, but he's going to read the narration in an American accent for some unexplainable reason. But I was not in a vault or a catacomb. I was sitting in my very ordinary desk, in my very ordinary office, which the department had granted me only last term, in the manner of people who have been feeding a stray for so long they might as well name it. Outside, the sky was a very ordinary late summer blue. Was this written in Britain? Because then it should have said, like, gray. I don't know if the sky gets blue in Britain or not. And I was holding in my hands the single greatest historical discovery of the century, or possibly the millennium, or the eon. I wanted to weep. I wanted to laugh. I wanted most of all to open the book and run the tips of my fingers over the pages to prove that it was real. And so was I. I was presented by a vestigial but powerful fear of the college archivist, who kept thumbscrews in her desk specifically for people who touched old paper without washing their hands first. You know what? She might have something going on here. Instead, I whispered, somewhat hysterically, "By Jove, I've— Malroy, old boy!" A moneyed, overloud voice, a tread like a parade march. This could only be Jeremy Harrison, the only other lecturer in my subfield. As was my long custom in this very stressful situation, I panicked. I wrapped the parcel paper back around the book, fumbled with the top drawer of my desk, which always jammed when it was damp. Which it always was. Okay, so this is in Britain. That makes sense. And in the end, stuffed the book down my shirt front and hunched my shoulders to hide the lump. This was sheer professional avarice, I'm afraid. There was only one endowed faculty position in Middle Dominion Studies. Middle Dominion, Dominion is a fantastic card game if you ever want to play a card game. So I would teach a class on Middle Dominion Studies if I was offered that. But I would destroy all of you because I'm kind of merciless that way. Harrison wanted it with the indefatigable, indefatigable passion. I can't read today. Of someone who thought admiration and wealth were his birthright. I wanted it with the indefatigable passion of someone who has never experienced either and would eat bullets for a taste. Whoever discovered this book, the book whose corners were presently digging into my ribs, would have more than a taste. There you are. Harrison rounded the corner and slouched against the door frame, looking as usual like an escapee from a painting of a fox hunt. I love that description. How's the book coming? He asked this question 2 or 3 times a week because he was at heart a bastard who reveled in the suffering of others. Fine, wonderful. My voice was a thin rasp, unpleasantly high. Fine, wonderful. My voice was a thin rasp, unpleasantly high. I tried not to resent it. The field surgeon had told me I was lucky to have a voice at all, or indeed a pulse. Oh. But I was just leaving. Actually, excuse me. I stood, still hunched, scuttling around my desk in the manner of an arthritic crab. Okay, this is interesting. So this is like a mid-20th century, one of the world wars going on here. We've got some archaic British. We've got talk about field surgeons and stuff. I'm down with that. Of course. Far be it from me to stand between a war hero and his duty, Harrison said. I found his voice. There it is. He's got to go back to India. Solicitously and hateful, the everlasting Medal of Valor was the only thing I had ever achieved that Harrison hadn't. Oh, dang, none of his exploits in India had gotten him any medals. I longed to rub his face in it, but as the whole thing was a complete, I can't say that, naughty, naughty, because YouTube will slap me or something. Never quite could. I produced a hoarse ha ha and ran for it like the coward I always was and always would be. I waited until did he was there some drama in the war that he ran away and got shot, but then he got a medal, but he still feels like a coward kind of thing? Because I've seen that kind of drama in books before. And always would be. I waited until I was on the train back to my flat, still bent nearly in half, as if I were smuggling an infant or suffering from an intestinal complaint, before extracting the parcel from my shirt. There was no return address on the wrapping, no stamp of origin, just my name, Owen Melroy, and the address of the campus mailroom written in an unremarkable hand. I should have been at least mildly concerned that the entire thing was an elaborate hoax designed by Harrison to embarrass me. But all I felt was a rising, heady relief, as if the whole of my life up till now had been a sort of dreary, shameful churning, like a dog paddling, which would be redeemed by everything that happened next. I peeled back the paper. The book was bound in rich red heartwood, cut against the grain, so that the rings of the tree were visible, rippling outward. The spine was affixed by a series of clever bronze hinges, cerulean with age, and familiar. A circular symbol had been burned deeply into the wood, stained with soot. A wine root I traced with one shaking fingertip. An underfed boy of 7 or 8 was seated beside me, watching me in a frank, unashamed way that young people watch the unwell. He had an extravagance of eyelashes which gave him a wistful, sleepy look of someone woken mid-dream. I found myself opening the book, pointing to the title page. Can you read this? The boy recoiled a little from the sound of my voice, then warily, as if I were mad, or worse, intending to teach him something. No, sir. Don't worry. Few people could. Middle mother tongue bore a frustratingly faint resemblance to our modern language. Blah, blah. And I can't even speak modern English. But it had always come easily to me, like a childhood dialect I had not quite forgotten. I closed the book and tapped the cover. And what does this look like to you, this symbol? He bent to study it obediently. His hair, an unfortunate gaulish shade of red, was still fine enough to form babyish snarl on the nape of his neck. A lizard, he declared eventually. Or a dragon, maybe. Chewing up his own tail. All right, we're well over 3 pages, but I kept reading just because I wanted to do that little British voice. Anyway, I like this. I'm into this. This looks like something that I could enjoy, maybe. We'll see. Maybe I will come back and revisit this at some point after like checking the content, because I've been burned too much by books that by by books that have very steamy, naughty content right in the middle that I was not aware of. So now I have to check before I get myself traumatized. But yes, so far so good. This one I'm good. I haven't been good with all of the books I've read on this show, but this one I could go back and revisit and maybe finish reading it. So, not bad. Maybe this one deserves the popularity it has. We shall see. Anyway, if you enjoy watching this stuff, what is wrong with you? There's Brian Trahan's a great YouTuber. I highly recommend him. He does very happy, uplifting, positive stuff. You should go watch him. If you like cooking, there's this guy, Nick DiGiovanni, I love watching, so watch him. What are you doing on this channel even? Go like and subscribe to somebody else's channel because this one sucks. And if for some reason you're have run out of all the content on YouTube, I will be back here next week with another extremely popular book that I know nothing about. And if you want me to review something specific, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know. I probably won't ever see you again, but if I do, I'll see you next time.